total I've spent so far without taking my first flight lesson is... Hello, my name is Brandon Burke, and thank you for joining this journey with me on becoming a pilot. Many people think that when becoming a pilot, you only have to pay for when you are inside of a plane, but that's certainly not true. As I go on this journey, I'm finding out that flight training is very expensive, and most of my expenses have come from not even stepping inside of a plane yet. So let me start by breaking down every expense that I've spent so far in my journey to becoming a pilot. So the first thing that I spent was a discovery flight. So my discovery flight was $220. And if you are thinking about becoming a pilot, I highly recommend that you take a discovery flight, because that gives you the opportunity to go up in a small airplane to figure out if this is something that you want to do. So I highly recommend doing that. Do not skip this step. Some people might need to take even more than one discovery flight. If that's you, go ahead and do that, because this is a big investment, and if you're not comfortable inside of a small plane, this might not be the career for you. So first expense, $220 for a discovery flight. As I go through these expenses, of course, I will keep a running tab somewhere on the screen just so we can all stay together on this, and I can show you how the prices and the expenses really add up quickly. So my next expense was a first class medical exam. So that was $150. So I recommend also you going to get a medical exam early into your aviation journey. Medical exam, especially if you want to become an airline pilot down the road, they require you have a first class medical. You do not need a first class medical to get your private pilot's license, but like I said, if you want to be an airline pilot, a first class medical is required. So it was recommended to me to go ahead and get that out of the way to know if you are even qualified to become an airline pilot and obtain your first class medical. So of course, that is the next step that I took. I got my medical exam, and that cost me $150. Next expense was $200, and that was for my online ground school with Gold Seal. There are very many ground school options out there, so feel free to choose whichever one works for you. But like I said, I chose Gold Seal, and that cost $200 for the entire private pilot course. Next expense was my FAA private pilot written exam fee. That cost $175. That's what I paid in order to register and take the FAA private pilot written exam. So my next purchase was a flight bag. Of course, you don't necessarily have to have a flight bag. If you have a book bag already, you feel free to use that. But I chose to get a flight bag that holds all of my things for flight training, headset, and other things like that. This specific bag is from Flight Outfitters. I actually got it off of Amazon, and it cost me $129. Like I said, you don't need to spend $129 on a bag. This is just the bag that I chose. Here are some things that I used in preparation for my FAA written exam that I had to purchase. This is a plotter. You need this in order to take your FAA exam. So I bought a plotter. This plotter cost me $18 for this plotter. So along with that, I purchased my E6B flight computer. So I happen to have purchased a manual one that costs $50. They do have cheaper options that are maybe made of plastic, but I bought a more sturdier E6B flight computer, and this one cost me, like I said, $50. I also purchased an electronic E6B, which costs $128. Now, you do not need to purchase the electronic version if you are comfortable using the manual version. It didn't click with me on the first times using it, so I just went out and bought the electronic version as well on top of that, but it is not required to have both the manual and the electronic. So my next purchase was the Airman Knowledge Testing Supplement for Sport Pilot, Recreational Pilot, Remote Pilot, and Private Pilot book. Now this book, you need to purchase this book as well, because this book holds all of the diagrams, charts, maps, all of the test questions on your FAA written exam that the FAA uses for your written exam. All of the diagrams and things are in this book right here. So this book is required. I think I spent $12. This book cost me $12 on Amazon. And a lot of these things that I purchased off of Amazon. So you can just do a quick search on Amazon and, find all of these items that I'm referencing today. So the next book you're going to need is the FAR AIM. The FAA, I believe, comes out with a different updated version every year. This one, of course, 2025. This is what they call the Bible of aviation. Specifically, private pilot, a lot of regulations and a lot of things in here. I'm sure your flight school, whatever flight school or whoever you decide to do flight training with, will require this book. So this book I got on Amazon as well, and it cost me $27. So the next purchase for me was the Private Pilot Oral Exam Guide by Michael Hayes. This one, my flight school required that I get this one as I get ready to, closer to take my check ride. These are some of the oral exam questions that will be asked from the tester examiner. So they said this book is very helpful, so I went out and bought this book on Amazon as well. This book cost me $18 on Amazon. My next purchase was a logbook. This is probably one of the most important things that you need throughout your training, so you can, of course, track all of the hours that you have. The logbook does vary for prices on Amazon. I got mine for $12 off of Amazon. Basic Gleam aviation logbook, $12 on Amazon. My next purchase was a knee board. A knee board is, of course, required by my flight school. This knee board specifically I got off Amazon, and it costs $69. Now, you don't have to buy a $69 knee board. They have several knee boards on Amazon. I just went with the one that I liked the most, that had the best reviews in my eyes, and this was off of Amazon for $69. So my next purchase was a VFR sectional. This was required by my flight school, for my flight training. This specific one is for the Atlanta area, which is where I am located. Now, I'm sure that you all need this. I got this as well off of Amazon. It actually folds up and it opens up, to a large map, and you see the airports surrounding you in the area. This cost me $12 on Amazon. My next purchase was an aviation headset. This headset specifically is a Lightspeed Sierra headset. Now, for me, I did not go outright and just buy a headset because I was conflicted, and I know a headset is a large investment when it comes to flight training. So the thing that I did was I went to airplaceusa.com and I rented this headset. Rebecca, she's very responsive. She's doing a great thing over there at Airplace. So feel free to check them out if you are kind of undecided like me, or even if you might not have the funds to drop, several $100s or maybe even $1,000 on a headset, to begin your flight training. Of course, you can buy the cheaper headsets, and you might find people who say they, have had great experiences with cheaper headsets. But I chose, I know this is a large investment for me, so I wanted kind of the best quality headset. So as of now, I have this Lightspeed Sierra headset that I got from Airplace USA, and I paid exactly $45 a month just to rent this as a rental. just to kind of see how it fits, how I like it, as I go through flight training. I plan to rent this one for a while, see how I like it, and I plan to maybe go to another Lightspeed headset and possibly even a Bose, just to kind of test those all out before I make my final decision on the headset that I will purchase. So headset, $45 a month, so this is a reoccurring fee that I have to pay. Now, if you know which headset you want, this is, I think $650. The Bose headset maybe is about $1,300. You can also find a David Clark brand headset, which I believe they run for maybe $300 to $500. Some cheaper headsets on Amazon. So I mean, whatever works for you. But for me specifically, I have a big head. Wasn't really sure how it would fit, and I just didn't want to drop that $650 plus on a headset kind of without testing it out. So this is what I'm doing, trying out headsets, seeing how it fits, and probably as I go along in my flight training, I'll probably decide on a headset to just buy outright. So my next purchase was an iPad mini, which is what was recommended for my flight school. I did go with the newer iPad mini. Now, you don't have to have like a data plan for my specific flight school. I don't have to necessarily have a data plan that I pay for each month, but it's required that the iPad that you're using is capable of having a data plan on it, which is why I chose one of the latest iPad minis. Now for this, of course, iPads can cost several hundred, close to $1,000, and I didn't have the specific money to drop on there, so I just added this to my cell phone plan, and I pay a monthly fee of $15 for this iPad mini. So on top of having my iPad, there's also an app called ForeFlight that my flight school says recommended I should get, in order to do a host of things. ForeFlight is a great app. I haven't used it personally, but I have downloaded it on my iPad. So with ForeFlight, they offer 3 different tiers that you can purchase. I believe the lowest tier starts at about $125, and this is billed annually. The next tier is $250, which is what I got, the $250 billed annually, and the last tier is, I believe, $370 billed annually. So my next expense is renter's insurance. Now for this, you might need to go out and talk to your flight school specifically, because I know flight schools and flight instructors do different things when it comes to renter's insurance. But for me, I was responsible for getting my own flight insurance, flight renter's insurance. So I paid $26 a month, and I believe that came out to maybe about $260 for the year. That gives you coverage for the whole year. So you can either pay for the year or you can pay monthly, and it's $26 a month. So yeah, that's a lot of expenses. And if you add all of these up, the total I've spent so far without taking my first flight lesson is $1,561. Yeah, that's definitely, a substantial amount of money, having not even got into an airplane. So I wanted to make this video because I wanted to be transparent and give you definitely a realistic look on some of the things that you might need to purchase in your flight training or in your journey to become a pilot. So please let me know if this video is helpful. Please leave a like, drop a comment. Let me know what was some of your biggest expenses when it came to your flight training. So don't forget to subscribe. If you want to watch me and join me on my aviation journey, hit that subscribe button so you can see all the new and exciting videos that I'm dropping each and every week. I thank you all for tuning in. See you all next week. Peace and blessings.